Okay, now let's recap. We've said that ministry is essentially about two things. It is about building a bridge, turning on a light. We have two non-negotiables. The first non-negotiable refers to the light. Then we'll talk about the bridge. In turning on a light, our first non-negotiable is that we're going to emphasize not what we do for God, we're going to emphasize what God has done for us through Jesus. The good news of what Jesus did for us. That's what drove the church in the first century. Now, we're going to talk about how to build a bridge. How do we get to that point where we can turn that light on? How do we connect with kids? How do we do that? Now, I love the quote by Herb Kelleher. He was at one time the CEO of Southwestern Airlines, back when Southwestern was the only profitable airline. And they asked him how he did it. He said, well, we have a strategy. The strategy is we do stuff. Now, that's not a bad strategy for children's ministry. Doing stuff is a huge way, the best way, to connect with kids. So non-negotiable number 2 is involvement. Now, involvement is the secret sauce of children's ministry. Getting kids to participate, getting them to do things to be a part of their own learning. That's how kids operate. Kids are wired to do that. Now, here's what's amazing. It's a perfect fit. What kids want to do most is to participate, to be involved. They want to do stuff. And it turns out that the way they learn the best is to do stuff. It's the old Chinese proverb. You know, if you tell me, I'm going to forget. If you show me, I'll remember. But if you involve me, I'll understand. So we want to involve kids so that they'll understand. And that's what they want to do anyway. They want to be involved. They want to do stuff, and they learn best that way. Now, I'm amazed that through the Bible, you don't find any classrooms. You don't find anything that's the style of what we typically use today. You know, Adam and Eve, God didn't put them in a classroom. He gave them stuff to do. They were involved in creation or involved in taking care of the garden. They named the animals. They were tending the garden. All through the Old Testament, people were just involved in participating in what God was doing. Whether you have, Noah building a boat, or Moses taking the people out of Egypt, cross the Red Sea, David killing Goliath, whatever it is, people were just involved in doing stuff. When you get to Jesus, you don't see too many classroom sayings. Now you see once or twice where he would pull the boat out and he delivered the Sermon on the Mount, which didn't take but a few minutes, not a long sermon. But most of the time, he was teaching by doing. He was going through Palestine, they would see different situations, and he would use those as teaching opportunities for the disciples. And he would get the disciples involved in what he was doing. He did that on a regular basis. Well, you flash forward 2,000 years, and guess what? Everybody's a spectator. Everybody sits on a seat. We listen to somebody lecture. We watch the performance. Now listen, in children's ministry, it's not about the art of your performance. It's about the art of participation. And so we want to look for ways to get kids involved, to get them to participate in their learning. We've got kind of the metal chair approach, and we just want kids to sit up straight, keep the 4 legs of the chair on the floor and pay attention, and they get bored with that. So the idea is we want to look for ways to turn a spectator into a participant. We want kids not just to watch, we want them to be involved. We want to create, not just teach a lesson, we want to create a learning experience. Big difference. Now, if you're having behavioral problems in your children's church, I can pretty much tell you what's going on. It's called the downhill slide. Kids are not involved, they're not participating, they're just becoming spectators, or they are spectators. They then get bored, and when they get bored, they become behavioral problems. So the way to solve that is look for ways in teaching to get kids involved. Now here we come to the 4 most powerful words to excite a kid. There's 4 words you can say where pretty much any, particularly elementary age kid, will light up. I can walk into a group of kids who do not know me. They can be in the hallway just mingling around or talking, and I can walk up to them, and if I say 4 words, I've got their attention and they're ready to go. Now here are the 4 words, and these 4 words work like magic for elementary age kids. And here are the words. I need a volunteer. When kids hear you say that, they realize now there's an opportunity to do something. Even if I said to these kids in the hallway, hey, all right, I need a volunteer, we're going to go out back and dig a hole a mile deep. Even half of them will say, Okay, you know, the kids just want to do something. They're wired to do stuff. So here becomes the question. If we want to turn on this light, we're going to build a bridge to them. How do we do that? What are the ways that we can get kids involved? What are the ways we can get them to participate, to get them to understand? How do we do that? And that's what we're going to talk about in the upcoming videos.